I want to just say, first of all, thank you all for being here with us today, and I hope you all enjoyed your time with Ron Stiles. I understand you had some very good questions for him, and I appreciate you taking time. We're here today to announce our fiscal plan for Saskatchewan. This plan is a roadmap to get Saskatchewan out of last place. For too long, Saskatchewan people have been paying more but getting less, and it's time for that to change. Now, we've rolled out an ambitious plan to fix healthcare, to make your life more affordable, and to grow Saskatchewan's economy, to properly fund our kids' classrooms. And today, we're going to show you our plan to pay for it. Because I'll let you in on a little secret. Saskatchewan does not have a revenue problem. Saskatchewan has a management problem, a fiscal mismanagement problem. We're going to start by cutting Sask Party waste. For years, Scott Moe and his government have been spending money on the wrong priorities. $20 million and counting on a marshal service that has yet to deliver a single boot on the ground. That money could have and should have gone to existing police forces in our province. Self-serving political billboards like those that they took out to attack teachers in our province. And multi-million-dollar sole source contracts to their friends. These are just a few of the examples. We found over $50 million in waste that we can cut right away. I'm positive that there's even more. Enough is enough. It's time for change. We've looked closely at Scott Moe's books. Scott Moe and the Sask Party haven't been honest with the people of this province. They've also allowed education and health care to crumble. You deserve better. Our plan takes in existing revenues and invests in recruiting, retaining and training the frontline staff we need to fix our crumbling healthcare system. We're going to lower costs for you and your family by cutting Scott Moe's taxes on gas and children's clothing and groceries. We're going to reverse Scott Moe's cuts to education, bringing down class sizes and making sure that children in this province have the supports that they need. And our plan will allow us to get tough on crime and tough on the causes of crime. It's going to allow us to grow a strong economy with Saskatchewan jobs for Saskatchewan workers. And we're going to see the small business sector grow and thrive. And we can do all of this. We will do all of this without raising your taxes and still balancing the budget by the end of the first term. This is a plan for change. Now, I'm sure that Scott Moe and the Sask Party are going to tell you that this can't be done. But that's a choice. That's their choice. They are increasingly desperate to distract from their own record, from the choices that they've made to prioritize their own interests over the education of our kids, to prioritize their friends and insiders over the health care that you and your family deserve. And people right across this province are tired, and they're telling us that they're ready for change. I'm incredibly proud of the detailed plan that we're putting forward. The financial framework is how we are going to deliver the change. It's how we'll get out of last place, cut taxes, and balance the budget. And it's my commitment to the people of this province that it's past time that decisions were made in the interests of Saskatchewan people, not in the best interests of self-serving politicians. Now I'm going to turn things over to Ron to walk you through some of the more technical financial details, and after that, and I get a glass of water, we're happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you and good morning. thanks for your patience first this morning, okay, as I clawed my way through a lot of different numbers, okay. Again, hopefully I've left you with a good idea of what we're doing and what the comparisons look like to the opposition. Under Carla's leadership, the NDP have taken a novel approach to their platform costing. They're releasing a fully costed platform plus a fiscal framework for the next 4 years. This is really a first in Saskatchewan. It represents a higher level of transparency and accountability than we've seen in the past. The materials that we shared with you this morning builds out on the government's medium-term forecast for revenues, expenses, as well as its first quarter financial report and the 23-24 audited financial statements for the province. So it has the most recent available information. The NDP costing and fiscal forecast represents the reality of the province's existing fiscal situation and provides you with a more accurate overview of that situation. One of the challenges the NDP faced in developing these materials was the issues inherent in the forecast put out by the government over the past 4 years. As an example, in 23-24 alone, the province missed the budget revenue forecast by $1.3 billion in 1 year. On the expense forecast, they missed it by $2.1 billion. That means they spent $2.1 billion more than they projected at the start of the year. Over the past 4 years, the province missed its budget revenue forecast by an astonishing $9.7 billion. The approach taken by the NDP builds on the existing government operations and commitments, but also recognizes both inflationary and other pressures by building in funding for these other realities. The cost of the NDP platform over the next 4 years is $3.65 billion cumulatively. The total accumulated spending in government, we project, will be about $6.6 billion. Over the past 4 years, the accumulated increase in spending under the Sask Party was $17 billion over those 4 years. That is the comparative number. The NDP plan is affordable, it's fiscally responsible, and it represents less than 25% of the spending increases in the last 4 years. It's also important to note that the NDP plan has incorporated targets to eliminate waste and mismanagement in government. Over $58 million in waste is listed for cuts in the first year of a new NDP government. It's all about priorities. It's all about making choices. I'll now turn the podium back to the leader of the NDP, Carla Beck.
Thanks, Ron. With that, we're happy to take any questions you might have.
If you could only find $60 million over the course of a budget year, some would argue that's a pretty good job on the part of budgeting on the Sask Party in the past. That's all you can find in terms of getting rid of waste and mismanagement. You're using their baseline numbers to basically say you can balance the budget in a couple of years. Isn't this just a bit of a suggestion that actually budgeting that we're seeing from the Sask Party is pretty good? If all you can find is $60 million wasted, you can use your baseline to build on a solid eventual surplus budget in the fourth year based on your spending, additional spending?
So two things that I'd say to that. The first one is that we're confident that we can find the $50 million in waste. Again, we've taken caution with these numbers to ensure that we can deliver what we've put forth in this fiscal plan. I suspect there could be more. But the other thing, and I say this to people in this province, to the nurses who were on the front steps of the legislature yesterday, to those teachers who, had those billboards put up vilifying them at a time when they were sounding the alarm about the lack of funding in our classrooms. What's most important about the numbers that we're putting forward today is that we can make those investments. We can do it in a way that is fiscally responsible, that still gets us to balance in 4 years. But it makes me angry, and I think it will make people of this province angry to know that the government has told us it can't be done. It's very clear that their lack of investment in education, in healthcare, in offering cuts to Saskatchewan people has been a choice that they have made. They could have done it all along. They chose not to. What we're saying, again, is that our priorities are focused on the things that people in this province are desperate to see invested in. Some financial break at a time when they're struggling. The Sask Party has made a choice not to make those investments. We stand by this plan today. We're incredibly proud of our platform. We're confident in the numbers that we're putting forward. And very soon, Saskatchewan people will have the opportunity to vote for that change.
Apologize. The government just put out, the Sask Party just put out a paper suggesting there'll be a $3.9 billion added deficit with your promises. I don't think they've seen your numbers, but with your promises. Can I get your reaction to that in terms of that? Because you are offering some relatively pricey items. I assume there might be a few more in terms of the government.
Everything that we're going to put forward is fully costed in here. There's one line that you'll get more detail, financial detail when that platform announcement is made. But our full platform is fully costed in the numbers that you got today. The first thing I will say to that is that I'm confident in our numbers. And again, as Ron noted, this is novel in the amount of transparency that we are putting forward during this campaign. Because I get it. People in this province are cynical. They are reluctant to believe things that are said during a campaign, looking at the Sask Party's record of what they actually deliver after the campaign and their fiscal record. Which brings me to the second point. I'll take no lessons from this government, from this premier, when he has increased, doubled the debt in this province in 6 years. $14 billion. Ours is a plan to prioritize the things that desperately need investing in this province, that people care about, that people want to see a focus on, and it gets us back to balance in 4 years. This is the type of leadership, fiscal responsibility, solution-focused government that people in this province are looking for, and it's past time they had.
Speaking of investment, if you become the next Prime Minister, what are the key areas you're going to invest in first, and where would you like to cut spending first?
Yeah, as we've laid it out here, the key areas. We have to undo the damage in our children's classrooms. There's $2 billion over 4 years here to undo the cuts and to get us to a place where we can start making decisions based on what is in the best interests of kids, not as it's been under this government. Where can we cut that will do the least amount of damage to our kids' classrooms? That's number one. Number two is in healthcare. Healthcare is in crisis in this province. We saw nurses yesterday sounding the alarm again. The need to increase our workforce, stabilize those who are already working in our healthcare system, and ensure that our loved ones get the care that they need in this province. So that's number two. Offering some relief to Saskatchewan people when people in this province, more than any other, are struggling just to pay their bills. We've got a plan to do that, and do that starting day one, suspending that gas tax. Offering relief on things that people tell us all the time are causing them hardship, worrying about how they're going to pay for groceries, taking that Scott Moe's PST off of groceries, off of children's clothing, and we'll do that before Christmas. Another priority that has emerged after 17 years of the Sask Party is climbing rates of crime, violent crime, property crime, urban, rural areas, to immediately take steps to ensure that we've got more officers on the ground, and also that we are addressing the root causes of crime that have gone unattended to, that have been made worse by decisions made by the Sask Party. Mental health, addictions, rising homelessness. So those are the main priorities here. Also, offering small businesses in this province a break, ensuring that our small business sector continues to grow and be the backbone of the economy. Not increasing, not doubling the small business tax rate, for example. Providing some support for startups, for small businesses in this province. This is a plan for growth. This is a plan to invest in the things that Saskatchewan people want us to invest in, need us to invest in. It's a plan to invite people back to Saskatchewan, to ensure that people have the services that they need.
We heard about the growing debt, growing interest on debt. Do you have a plan to try to pay that down at all?
We do. It's contained in this document, but the main thing is getting us to a point where we're not adding more debt. Ours, again, is a plan to balance. It's going to take us 4 years to balance, but I maybe will hand that over to Ron.
So we recognize that debt is a problem. 95% of all the debt the province presently has comes down to two governments: the Divine Era and the present era. Okay, with Premier Moe, pardon me. And so we will restore the same type of fiscal integrity that the NDP had been noted for in the past. A large part of that will be to look at a lot of the projects that are being planned right now and figure out, are these projects that actually benefit Saskatchewan? Everyone knows about the cost overruns that occurred with the ring road here, or the bypass here in Regina. We've also seen what happens with projects like Ames that was supposed to originally be around $80 million, and right now looks to be trending towards about $270 million. So there's a variety of things that have to be done to try to bring some of this under control. But part of it is you have to be in government to be able to get access to the kind of information that allows you to strategize exactly how you're going to do that.
So you're talking about not adding to the debt, but are you going to be paying down the debt that we already have?
Well, yeah, there's only been one government in the history of Saskatchewan that's ever paid down debt during the entire term of that government, okay? That is the Romano and Calvert governments, okay? Every other government has paid it down at times, but has then rebounded, okay, and actually ran up a lot more debt.
Your numbers suggest you fit into that category, though, because you're not addressing surpluses until the third year.
That's right. Like I say, it will take time to get things under control in government. You won't do it in the very first year. You have to bend your expense lines and try to maximize your revenue lines, obviously, okay, to be able to get to that particular point. But it's something, again, that NDP have done in the past. They've cleaned up messes from previous governments, and they'll do it again.
Like someone said earlier, there's some pricey items on this list. How do you justify spending this much money while trying to stick to this 4-year plan to get out of the deficit?
The first one, so the two main expenditures in our fiscal plan are education and healthcare. I cannot justify not making those investments right now. I think people expect that they should be able to get care in the province, that they should be able to get care without waiting the longest in the country wait times, that they should be able to get care without having to go out of province or pay out of pocket to get it. So in healthcare, it's about investing. For sure, we've got a $1.1 billion increase over the 4 years, but it's also, as Ron said, making sure that when we are spending money in healthcare, we're putting it in the right places. A couple of examples. Again, the AIMS system. It's over time, and it's well over budget, 3 times what it was originally set to cost, and it still doesn't work. It has babies in the NICU right now, nurses without the right equipment, the right syringes, for example, to be able to properly dose. It's not paying those working in healthcare properly. It's increased steps to try to procure equipment for hospitals. I mean, it's a mess, and it's one in a long list of managed, overpriced expenditures by this government. We need to make those investments because, as we heard from nurses yesterday, our healthcare system, it's on its knees. This is important to Saskatchewan people. This is important to people right across this province. And if we don't make those investments, we stand to lose a healthcare system in the birthplace of Medicare. So those are important. So there's one more. I wanted to answer the second part of that question in terms of the education. What we are building back into our education system, growing classrooms in this province, is undoing the cuts that have been done under Scott Moe and the Sask Party over the last 10 years, decreasing per student funding each of those years. Because there's an urgency to this as well, because kids in our classroom today can't wait 5 and 10 years to have their elementary years over again. We need to make those investments now so that our kids are getting the supports, the good start that we need, that I think all parents in this province want to see for their kids, for their grandkids. So those are the priorities. Again, we're being very transparent in terms of how we plan to pay for it. And again, I'd ask the current government, or ask Scott Moe and the Sask Party, why is it the case that you have failed to make these investments? One more I just want to say, and this is an important one in terms of how we pay for it. The lack of investment into things like a retention program in healthcare in this province, something that healthcare workers have been sounding the alarm about for at least 5 years prior to the pandemic, means that last year in this province, instead of spending money on nurses, existing nurses' positions, this government spent a record amount on travel nurses, contract nurses, and forced overtime in this province. Those two items alone could have paid for an additional 1,000 nursing positions in this province. This is how this government spends more and Saskatchewan people get less. And it's time for change, as I said. Sorry, there are two questions over here.
I can ask, at the end of the 4 years, you have a pretty modest surplus, and I'm just wondering what sort of contingency plans or elasticities built into the budget, because I mean, I look at that surplus and I think that's 2 bad days of hail, crop insurance payments, and given that we have consolidated financials in the province, which organize everything, I see that surplus being pretty small in the grand scheme of things in the province where we have $1 billion payers to crop insurance.
Well, the first thing I will say is, I mean, you're right in terms of there's not a lot of room there at the end. As Ron said, what we have put forward here is modest. It is conservative in many ways in terms of the numbers that are there. We're not wanting to make promises that we can't keep. We're confident in these numbers. And again, were we given the opportunity to form government, would have more access to detail, something that is increasingly less available with the Sask Party in this province. That lack of transparency, that lack of ability to answer these questions has been a hallmark of the Scott Moe government. But I'll turn it over to Ron in terms of the confidence.
Can you tell us if you, as an NDP premier, would cancel the SMRs and the Lake Baker irrigation project? Because it was cited in the briefing as things that were unknown costs. It could be quite significant. What is your position?
Well, as we've been saying all along, in terms of are we opposed? Are we planning to cut these projects? No, we are open to moving ahead with these projects. But I think with any financial decision that is being made, small ones, but certainly multi-billion-dollar decisions that are being made, it is a reasonable expectation, certainly an expectation I have, that we would do so with full transparency, with access to all of the details, value for money, assessments that have been done, how much it's going to cost, for example. We haven't seen any transparency on we don't know, and I'm going to let Ron take this because the lack of transparency on these particular issues and so many more, and again we're talking about tens of billions of dollars with these projects. There has been a complete lack of transparency on the part of the Sask Party when it comes to telling the people of this province how they plan to pay for it, what the benefit is to the people of this province. I'll turn it over to Ron.
So maybe I'll start with the idea or the concept of it's a very slim surplus, and it is. There's absolutely no doubt about that. But we believe it's a very balanced budget from the perspective of both the risks and the threats to the budget. And so if you look on the revenue side as an example, okay, depending upon the number of people that come into Saskatchewan over the next number of years, you could see significant increases in something like PST or the provincial sales tax. So again, it's balanced, and there is things on both sides of the equation. Anytime you prepare a budget, you're always aware of those kind of threats or benefits, I guess, that go with the budget. And again, you just try to make sure that they're balanced, okay? So I don't think there's a simple way to get at it. There is contingency for inflationary pressures and other needs within government. The numbers we handed out was $275 million in each of the first 2 years and $300 million in the last 2 years. So there is room to do things in there. And part of managing budgets is to be proactive, to understand the threats, the problems that are starting to emerge, and then to make adjustments to the budget as you're going along, and that's always been the case. We would take that same sort of proactive approach, okay, to managing budgetary pressures. With respect to the other projects, it is a question of transparency. My favorite example to this is the last time we had an estimate on the cost of an SMR was 2020, pardon me. Don Morgan said it was $5 billion. Since then, we've had basically, I think, about a 30% jump in construction prices. In addition, these reactors are not even licensed at the present point in time. The designs haven't been completed. My guess is you can look at probably some increases on top of that as well. This is all the information that should be available and should be provided to the people of Saskatchewan. You also need to look at how much it's going to cost to operate these kind of facilities, okay? And it applies to all three major projects. And the bottom line is, who pays for them? Is it the taxpayers? It is the ratepayers. None of this has been released to the public. None of it's been made available to ourselves, and are all risks, okay, that need to be considered going forward.
Carla, can you just explain why you didn't look at potash royalties to bring in more revenue for the province?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the first day of the campaign, unofficial, I suppose, we made a promise not to raise taxes in this province, and that included changes to the resource royalty structure. The industry has been important for a long time to this province, and is an industry that is facing some headwinds, some declines in potash prices. We have a new mine coming online very soon that's going to increase the amount of potash available by about 8.5 million tons. We still have Russia supplying contracts around the world. So some of those factors are facing the industry right now. The number one thing that we're hearing from certainly potash, but other investors, potential investors in this province is that they need predictability and sustainability right now. And that's something that we wanted to provide off the top when we made that first announcement. It's simply not the right time. The other thing that we've shown here today is that we can make the investments in this province, the needed investments and the things that people desperately need us to invest in, And we can do all of that without raising taxes, without changing the resource structure, and also have a plan to balance by the end of 4 years. So that's why we made the decision.
Yeah, I understand your cuts would lead to job losses at CIC, at Executive Council, and can you just explain why that's justifiable in your view?
So we haven't we haven't talked about we've talked about waste in government right now, and I think that is where the main focus would be. Maybe let Ron take this one.
So, I'd first start with Executive Council. Executive Council has grown over the past 17 years. It's significantly larger than 2007. We believe it can operate with a smaller number of staff, and still carry out the same work effectively as well. Most of the appointees in Executive Council are also political, There's going to be a natural turnover. There is after each government changes as well. So that would be the opportunity to make those revisions. So nobody's going to really lose their job in Executive Council, When you talk about CIC has grown over the past 6 years. If you were to look at the numbers, the growth rate is in the 30%. Again, they seem to be layering in a lot of people that are overseeing the Crown corporations themselves. I'm not sure why we're adding staff in a central agency when the individual Crown corporations actually have 2,000 and 3,000 staff themselves. I mean, it seems to me that you want to be dependent upon those individuals, the presidents, the vice presidents that are there as well. And so, again, we would start to reduce the staff that are in that particular location. These sort of things don't mean that somebody has to lose a job. You can redeploy staff to other areas. And so we would seek to redeploy the individuals, There's lots of jobs here in Saskatchewan. And so, again, we would seek to redeploy them into other areas of the Crown or executive government as well.
I thought everybody traditionally lost their jobs in Executive Council when governments changed. You keep the political appointments?
So no one's quite measuring the curtains yet in terms of those decisions to be made. The plan that we're putting forward today really is about running an efficient government that delivers value to the people of this province, that ensures that we are investing in the things that people in this province need us to invest in, increasing the number of people working in our schools and in our healthcare system at a time where that is desperately needed. As we mentioned, there's $50 million in waste that we have projected here in this budget. Our focus will be on continuing to deliver best value and investments for people in this province in the places that it's most needed. You don't have to go very far for people to very clearly understand that this is a government that has a long history of cost overruns, of another example, paying 10 times for a mammogram for a single source donor, a contract to a donor in Calgary, rather than actually building the workforce here so that women at home can get those mammograms. This is throughout government. It's been the record of this government. What we're proposing is, again, a government that is fiscally responsible, that is responsive to the needs of people in this province, that invests in the services that people in this province need, that have been neglected under this government, and to restoring us to our record as NDP governments in this province of delivering balanced budgets. This is what people in this province are telling us consistently they want to see. This is what we're putting forward. And again, I'm incredibly proud and grateful. I haven't said that enough, that Ron has been here to guide us, along with so many people across this province who are telling us they want a responsible government. They want to restore us to leaders in this province. And again, we're very proud, and we stand by the numbers that we put forth today.
Unless you have a line for promises yet to be made, it's just a small point, but it's not enough to revive STC, so I assume that promise is kind of off, or not promise, that proposal is kind of off.
I mean, there's no need that there has been a void left since the closure of STC. People who can't get to medical appointments, who can't get out to visit relatives and things like that. It's not something that we've accounted for in this fiscal plan. But you know, like any government, you would look to continually find ways to provide some of those services. I think what STC really does provide, though, as well, is a cautionary tale. You know, this was a service that hand over heart this government promised that they wouldn't touch, that it was, I believe they said, an essential service prior to the 2016 election, and then they brought in. They did away with STC without warning for the people of this province. This is a government that says one thing, or this is a party that says one thing prior to an election, and their record is something very different. And I think people in this province have had enough of that. Again, it's why we've been very cautious to not make promises that we can't keep. It's why we've been transparent, showing how we're going to pay for it, where those investments are going to be made, because we need to restore trust with the people of this province that what you say in an election campaign is exactly what you will deliver after an election campaign.
Carla, the leader of the Saskatchewan Party has spent the first 4 days making announcements on enhancements to programs that were already established. Today, he said that the NDP plan is not feasible, that it's, it was mentioned as $4 billion, know your numbers, counteract that. What do you say to the criticism that's going to come from Mr. Moe that they're the responsible spenders and you are not?
Well, I think, again, today we've offered in black and white with detail, and happy to continue to take questions on the fiscal plan that we've put forward. But I would say to Mr. Moe, and it's what I hear from the people of this province as well, he's desperate to distract from his own record. Again, a record. He has the distinction now of not only being the premier, the only premier in the country to have shrunk the economy before, during, and after the pandemic. He also has the distinction of being the premier in record time, 6 years, to have increased the debt in this province by the largest amount, $14 billion. So people are right to question Scott Moe's record on this, and it's also part of the reason why we've been so forthcoming with our promises and how we're going to pay for them, because people in this province for 6 years have had a premier who says one thing, but his record is something very different. The other thing in terms of announcements that we're going to see from Scott Moe and the Sask Party, people have been struggling. If any financial relief measures, people have been struggling for 2 years in this province with the highest level of anxiety about paying their bills in the entire country. People are right to say, why do you wait till the eve of an election before you offer some relief to Saskatchewan people? They've been struggling for a long time. Again, I'm focusing on what we can deliver, how we can pay for it, but it's so obvious to an increasing number of people in this province that Scott Moe is becoming desperate to distract from his own record. Both his fiscal record, but his record of delivering for people in this province. We're focused on the future. We're focused on the campaign and what a Saskatchewan NDP government would deliver, restore for the people of this province. And again, we're incredibly proud of this platform. We're happy to have our fiscal plan scrutinized. We expect that, and we're incredibly proud that we can do this and restore us to some financial accountability in this province again, balanced by the end of 4 years.
One unrelated question for my colleagues in Saskatoon. Would you consider making September 30th a provincial holiday?
Yes.
Why is that?
No, I know what it is. I'm just, yeah. So why would we consider doing that? Was that the question? Oh.
Would you consider it in?
Yes. Yes, we would. You know, it's an important day to honor survivors of residential schools, to allow Canadians to reflect on the history of colonization and the treatment of Indigenous people in this country, in the province. It's also about walking that path of repair to ensuring that all people in this province have the same access to opportunities, to have the same access to quality of life. As I said, I often approach these things as a parent, you know, that we all want for our kids, that we all want for our grandkids in our communities. I think it's important. I think that it's symbolic, but again, does allow that reflection. It's not the only measure that we need to take in terms of walking that path and ensuring that all people have those opportunities, but it's a start.
Do you guys have a plan for reconciliation in place? And how you would have, like, what would you do around the province to try and work towards that?
Yes, I mean, reconciliation is, is a lot of things. There's symbolic things, but ultimately, reconciliation is acknowledging the harms that have been done and charting a path together through relationship, through some, difficult conversations, through concrete measures to restore some of that damage is done, and again, to ensure that all people in this province have access to equal measures of opportunity. And I think it's not a point in time. It's not a program. It's not a lesson or something that you can take in a short course. It's a process of how we walk along together in this province as Indigenous and non-Indigenous people towards, restoring damage done and ensuring a good life for all people here.
Okay.
Just to clarify about the budget, the fact that it will take 4 years to balance, isn't it something that worries you, or maybe that worries you that it will scare the voters?
The approach that we've taken, again, is one that allows us to make the investments that need to be made. We don't have time to wait to make those investments in classrooms in education. Would I have liked to have been able to balance it sooner? For sure, but this is a plan that we know that we can implement, that we know addresses those concerns, that makes the investments that need to be made. I think what people in this province should be wary of is the Sask Party making promises at election time when their track record in terms of balancing budgets in this province is, well, it's there for people to see in this province. They have, this is a government that has balanced 3 budgets in 17 years. This is their record. Again, I don't make promises I can't keep. This is our plan. It's responsible. It makes the investments needed, and restores our track record as New Democrats, as new NDP governments in this province, of both investing in services and also financial accountability.
Do you review the cost of crop insurance?
Sorry, Mayor?
To the leader, would you review the cost of crop insurance because, as per Alex's question, that's 2 days hail in terms of the surplus. We are spending a tremendous amount right now on the federal provincial program that some argue needs to be reviewed. Would you review the cost of crop insurance? I'm not asking, obviously, change it again, but would it be at least reviewed?
It's not something that is contained here, and it's not something that we've talked about. It's-
Thank you, Carla. Thank you, Ron.
Thanks, everyone.